No way. How can someone as incompetent as you be here? Boarding on the same plane means your incompetence might rub off on me. Sophie shouted loudly on the plane. How rude, but I didn't want to cause a scene on the plane. Oh, what a coincidence. I replied calmly, but in my mind, I was furious at Sophie's words. My trip is completely ruined because I ran into you, Michelle said as she sat down on her seat. As usual, Sophie and Michelle's words were really harsh. However, this was the last time they would say such rude things to me. My name is Alex, and I'm 30 years old. I was always a frail kid from the time I was little and was often hospitalized. I was also a very shy and quiet kid. My parents took good care of me without a single look of disgust. Whenever I got a fever, no matter how late it was, they would take me to the hospital, and they always stayed with me when I was admitted. I loved my parents dearly. I always wanted to take care of them in the future with much gratitude. That's why I decided to pursue a stable career in healthcare. I studied hard and got into a nursing program at a prestigious medical school. My parents cried tears of joy when I was accepted. I was so happy to see them so proud. Thus began my college life at the medical school. I found nursing studies fascinating and threw myself into my studies. Although my studies were very demanding, my parents supported me wholeheartedly. Thanks to their support, I was able to focus on my studies in college. I can't thank them enough. I thought those days would last forever. But reality was not that easy. It happened so suddenly. In my third year of the medical school, my parents died in an accident. It was hopeless. With my parents gone, I wondered what I was going to do with my life. I questioned myself every day. They left me enough inheritance to graduate from the medical school. However, I was in no mental state to continue my nursing studies. So, I decided to drop out of the school. When I told my classmates, they looked at me with disdain. What? Dropping out of college is unthinkable, Sophie said coldly to me. Everyone else agreed with her. But only my classmate and best friend Jake was kind to me. Losing both parents at once is tough. I'm here for you, Alex. I was saved by Jake's words. 9 years have passed since then. Now, I have a job and live a busy yet fulfilling life. One day, I received a call from Jake. Jake and I kept in touch regularly even after I dropped out of the college. We occasionally went out for drinks and even traveled together. But we hadn't contacted each other lately due to our busy schedules. I was excited to hear from Jake after a long time. Hey, there's a reunion for our medical school classmates to celebrate that we are turning 30. Do you want to come, Alex? I was surprised by Jake's words. I didn't graduate from the school, so I don't have the right to go. When I said this skeptically, Jake laughed. No worries. Some classmates want to see you, so you should come too. There's no way any of my classmates want to see me. They all looked at me with disdain when I announced I was dropping out. I wasn't keen on attending the reunion. But since Jake was enthusiastic, I reluctantly agreed to go. Alright, I'll join. After hanging up, I sighed. On the day of the reunion, I arranged to meet Jake at a nearby cafe so we could go together. When I arrived at the cafe, Jake was already sitting inside. Hey! Long time no see. Jake looked as energetic as ever. Yeah, it's been about a year, right? Yeah. Got a girlfriend yet? You should find a good wife soon. Jake got married 2 years ago and is now a father of one. His occasional messages were mostly about his wife and child. I still didn't have a girlfriend, let alone a wife. It's not that I don't want one, but I'm so focused on work that I haven't had the chance to meet anyone. But someday, I hope to have a family of my own to care for. How's your work? We're swamped over here because we're short-staffed. Jake sighed as he spoke. Jake worked as a nurse at a university hospital. He said nurses were in short supply. Work is going all right. Why don't you come work at our hospital, Alex? Jake joked, laughing. I laughed off his suggestion. It's about time. Shall we go? At Jake's signal, we stood up and headed to the venue. My steps felt heavy. The reunion was held at a fancy restaurant in a hotel. On that day, They were going to rent out a restaurant and have a party to celebrate our entering 30s. A sparkling chandelier hung in the restaurant, adding to its luxurious atmosphere. The tables were lined with delicious-looking dishes. The restaurant was already bustling with many of our classmates. Jake and I entered the restaurant. As soon as the classmates saw Jake, they approached us. "Jake. Long time no see." "Yeah, it's been a while." They didn't even glance at me. Maybe I didn't belong here. I was about to leave. But then, the classmates talking to Jake noticed me and looked surprised. "Alex. Is that you, Alex?" They cheerfully called out to me. Then, with serious expressions, they said, "We wanted to apologize. When you told us you were dropping out, we treated you badly." "We're sorry," they said, apologized deeply. "It's okay. I knew I'd be looked down on for dropping out while everyone else was working hard. Will you forgive us?" "Thank you. Let's drink tonight." My classmates had actually cared about me. I felt truly glad to have come here. Jake saw my relieved smile and grinned. However, this feeling didn't last long. A familiar voice came from behind. "Why are you apologizing to someone like this guy?" "There's no need to apologize to an incompetent person." It was Sophie, the last person I wanted to see. Sophie looked down on me, calling me incompetent. This was way too much. I wanted to talk back, but I didn't want to engage with Sophie. "Hey! Calling someone incompetent is rude." Jake spoke up for me, angrily confronting Sophie. But Sophie just laughed mockingly. "Oh, I'm just telling the truth, right? He dropped out of the college, so he's useless," she said, glaring at me. Michelle, agreeing with Sophie, added, "Sophie's right. And why is someone who didn't graduate here? Just leave." She raised her voice. All eyes in the restaurant turned toward us. "Come on, let's keep it civil. We're here to have a good time." One of our classmates tried to defuse the situation, and Sophie and Michelle glared at me before moving away. "Don't let what those two said bother you. They're just frustrated because their personal lives aren't going well." But their words were too harsh anyway. Jake and my classmates tried to comfort me. According to them, Sophie and Michelle were both single, participating in dating events but currently without boyfriends. They were also busy with work, unable to take breaks, which added to their frustration. Still, taking their frustrations out on me was unreasonable. I couldn't shake my discomfort. Feeling hungry, I decided to grab some food from the buffet. As I was transferring food to my plate, a woman bumped into me. "Oh, I'm sorry. Are you okay?" She looked at me with concern. "No problem, just a light bump, I'm fine." When I said this, she stared intently at my face. "Oh. Alex." Her voice suddenly became excited. Yes?" As I said so, she smiled. I looked at the woman's face, wondering. Then I remembered. "It's Emma. I was the clumsy one in college who always needed your help, remember?" That's right, it was Emma. Back in college, Emma was always tripping over nothing or dropping things. I was so worried about Emma that I often helped her when I saw her. Now, she seemed like a very composed woman. "It's great to see you again. I was really sad when you left college." Emma looked nostalgic and a bit sad. "Oh, I'm sorry I didn't say goodbye properly when I left," I said, and Emma smiled and replied. "It's been tough for you." "Thank you for all your help during college," Emma said. Then, I heard those annoying voices behind me again. Oh my, what a cute couple we have here. Seriously. Emma looked down. I was fed up with Sophie and Michelle's condescending attitudes. Before I knew it, I had grabbed Emma's arm and led her out of the venue. I sat Emma down on a bench outside the restaurant. Then, she spoke up. "I dropped out in my 4th year of college. I wondered why she would do that after working so hard. Seeing my parents take care of my grandmother, I wanted to be able to help people in need of care too. So I enrolled in a vocational school for caregiving and now work as a caregiver." "Wow, that's incredible. You as a caregiver? That's so cool." Emma, pursuing her own path, looked radiant to me. Sophie and Michelle call me useless too. But I don't regret becoming a caregiver. So Sophie and Michelle looked down on not just me, but Emma as well. I was filled with disbelief. Don't worry about what others say. Have confidence in yourself. You're amazing, Emma. I tried to comfort her. Emma nodded yes while tears welling up. Emma and I then moved to a nearby bar and talked about what we were doing after dropping out of college. The time flew by, and I could forget about the harsh words from Sophie and Michelle. Before parting ways, Emma and I exchanged contact information. I felt a warm light in my heart. Since then, a few months passed. Emma and I kept in touch and met frequently. Eventually, we started dating. From the moment I met Emma again at the party, I was in love with her. I admired how she followed her own path, and I wanted to be with her always. When I confessed my feelings, Emma said she felt the same. When I told Jake, he was surprised but genuinely happy for me. I felt truly blessed to have such a good friend. Though we were in a long-distance relationship, Emma and I communicated every night. And we decided to take a week off work starting today to go on a vacation overseas. It was the first time we'd spend such a long time together. I had been looking forward to this day. Alex, it's like a dream come true to be traveling with you, Emma said, smiling. I'm so happy to be traveling with you, too, I replied. I was excited about our first trip alone together. When it was time to board, Emma and I went into the plane. However, there we ended up meeting the last people we wanted to see. Our seats were in business class. I had splurged for our first overseas trip together. We settled into our seats. Then, we heard voices from the front. No way. Why are you here? Boarding on the same plane means your incompetence might rub off on me. I can't believe it. I couldn't believe my ears. It was Sophie and Michelle. A chance encounter with them on such a special trip. I cursed my bad luck. Sophie and Michelle were as rude as ever. I was extremely annoyed, but I didn't want to cause a scene on the plane. So I simply replied calmly, "Oh, what a coincidence." Michelle glared at me and said loudly, "My trip is completely ruined because I ran into you." I thought the same about them but ignored her. Emma looked at me with concern. Spending 7 hours on this flight near these two felt like a nightmare. As I was filled with despair, Emma whispered in my ear, "Let's just ignore them." Emma held my hand as she said that. Her touch helped ease my anger towards the two of them. Then the plane took off. Emma watched the receding land with excitement. 30 minutes after takeoff, the seatbelt sign turned off and drinks were served. Emma and I toasted with wine. Meanwhile, Sophie and Michelle were drinking more and more. Despite being on a plane, they were still making a bang. What a nuisance. I couldn't believe it. Michelle, wobbling from too much alcohol, got up to go to the bathroom. A few minutes later, she returned to her seat, looking very unwell. Just as she was about to sit down, she collapsed in front of her seat. I watched from my seat, thinking it was just from drinking too much. But then Sophie screamed, "No! Michelle, come on! Stay with me!" A flight attendant, hearing the scream, hurried over to Sophie. Then, the flight attendant panicked but said in a loud voice, "Is there any doctor on board?" The plane was in turmoil. And there seemed to be no doctor on board. Emma signaled to me with her eyes. I raised my hand and said, "I'm coming," and went to Michelle. Sophie looked shocked when she saw me. "What? You're not a doctor. Get out of the way and go back to your seat." I sighed and replied, "I am a doctor." "What?" But Sophie didn't seem to believe me. I didn't have time to deal with her. I needed to save Michelle immediately. I checked Michelle's condition. She wasn't breathing. Loosen her clothes quickly. Why should I follow your lead? Despite Michelle's condition, Sophie did nothing. I had the flight attendant help loosen Michelle's clothes. Then I began CPR. This looks like a heart attack. We need to land at the nearest airport immediately. Time is critical. I instructed the flight attendant. The flight attendant hurriedly contacted to the cockpit. 5 minutes after starting CPR, Michelle's pulse faintly returned. Sophie, who had been watching, asked me the same question again. Are you really a doctor? I was exasperated by her question at such a time. So I answered loudly and clearly. Yes, I am. I'm a heart surgeon. Seeing me act decisively, Sophie started to believe I was a doctor. Yes, I am currently a heart surgeon in another country. Even before my parents passed away, I had wanted to become a heart surgeon. However, the nursing program at the medical school I attended didn't offer the specialized training I needed. I talked to my parents about it. Follow the path you want. They encouraged me. So I decided to leave the medical school. Just then, the accident happened to my parents. They had left me a significant inheritance to ensure I could live freely. I believed that even in heaven, my parents would want me to pursue what I loved. So I decided to study cardiology abroad. I graduated from the medical school in another country and became a heart surgeon. So my living base at that time was not in the US. Every day was busy but fulfilling as a doctor. My parents, watching over me from heaven, would surely be proud of me now. However, I had only told a few people, like Jake and some relatives, about my career. This was because some people judge others by their occupation. People often said it was impressive to be a heart surgeon, but I didn't want to be valued just for my profession. I wanted people to see me for who I was on the inside. That was why I kept it to myself. But I was honest with Emma. I wanted her to know everything about me. Even after learning that I was a heart surgeon, Emma treated me no differently. I was glad I had told her the truth. The plane landed at the nearest airport. Fortunately, the airport was nearby, and we could land quickly. It was a silver lining. Michelle was immediately taken off the plane and transported by the waiting ambulance. For now, Michelle would be okay. I felt a deep sense of relief. Then Emma, standing next to me, began to cry. I'm so glad Michelle is safe. Even after being treated so poorly, Emma felt genuinely happy for Michelle. She really was a kind woman. I found myself even more drawn to her. Then Sophie approached to us. I was exhausted and didn't want to hear any more of Sophie's snide remarks. So I tried to pull Emma away from the scene. But Sophie kept following us. What on earth did she want? I stopped and turned to face Sophie. Sophie raised her voice to us. Thank you for saving Michelle today. I'm sorry for all the nasty things I said to you, Alex. Sophie apologized deeply. Emma approached Sophie and looked into her face. I'm really glad Michelle is okay. Everyone makes mistakes, and you can always start over, she said. Sophie began to cry, and Emma hugged her. I've always dreamed of becoming a nurse since I was little. So I worked hard in my nursing studies. But the job was much harsher than I expected. And it wasn't what I had imagined. Sophie confessed. Both Emma and I listened quietly to Sophie's story. Maybe I was jealous of you too for pursuing the paths you love. I'm truly sorry. I was so foolish, Sophie admitted. Seeing Sophie's honesty, my irritation faded away. I'm not one to dwell on the past. Let's forget about it. What matters is from now on, I said. Sophie's face brightened up. Thank you so much. Emma watched our conversation with a happy smile. A few hours later, Emma and I boarded an alternate flight for our vacation trip. We both felt incredibly cheerful. About an hour into the flight, I sat in my seat, feeling nervous. Just then, an announcement from the pilot echoed through the cabin. We have a special announcement. There's a man here who wants to propose to his beloved one. The passengers buzzed with excitement. How romantic. That's wonderful, Emma said, looking at me excitedly. I held Emma's hand. In fact, I had planned this proposal even before our trip. I knew Emma was a romantic. That's why I wanted to propose in a romantic way. So, though it took a lot of courage, I decided to propose on the plane. I had coordinated with the airline in advance to make the arrangements. Please give your warm support as he makes his proposal, the pilot continued. Then I stood up and took a ring out of my pocket. Then I put my knees on the floor and looked up at Emma. Emma covered her mouth with her hands, looking at me. Emma, I know I'm like this, but I want to be with you forever. Will you marry me? All the passengers were watching us intently. Emma, blushing, looked at me. Will she say yes? I felt nervous. Then Emma, teary-eyed, said, yes. I'd be delighted. She took the ring. I couldn't help but embraced her. The surrounding passengers cheered and congratulated us. And so, we became officially engaged. We enjoyed our time together on the vacation. After the trip, I had to return to my job in another country. The joyous time flew by. After the trip, I reluctantly returned to work out of country. Later, I was informed that thanks to the precise emergency resuscitation, Michelle was able to be discharged from the hospital immediately. I got a message from Michelle apologizing and thanking me. I was truly glad Michelle survived. Sophie, I heard, quit nursing and started studying nail art. She told everyone that it was thanks to me that she could follow her desired path. Emma told me that she had been spending more time with Sophie and Michelle, growing closer as friends. Emma happily told me about it. Time passed, and a year went by. How do you like being back in DC? Jet lag is tough, but I still love DC. Jake grinned at me. It's because Emma is here with you, right? I felt my face turn red. I decided to quit my job out of country and work at Jake's hospital. Sorry to keep you waiting. I was looking at baby clothes with Michelle and lost track of time. That's because Sophie wanted to buy everything. Sophie and Michelle cheerfully entered the cafe. How's the baby doing? Great. And it's a girl. Sophie, Michelle, and Jake exchanged happy looks. Yes, Emma and I got married right after returning from our vacation trip. And now, Emma is carrying our child. That's why I decided to move back to DC. Alex, you're finally going to be a dad. And a girl, no less. Unbelievable. Jake smiled at me. It's all thanks to you inviting me to the party to celebrate our entering 30s. Just then, Emma came in late. Sorry, I'm late. Everyone burst into laughter seeing Emma all sweaty. I look forward to enjoying my one and only life surrounded by the people I love.